Are the shows speaking to us, or are they just white noise? I saw 2 plays dealing with racism at the public. Susan Laurie Park's White Noise deals with the honest assessment of racism, white privilege, and guilt amongst 4 friends who are thrown into a tizzy when Leo makes an outrageous proposal that blows the seams of their friendship apart in ways that they never knew could happen. Leo has never been able to sleep because of a Bible teacher told him something scary and false. But he learned to power through all adversities this way. He's now living with Dawn, a lawyer who wants to bring justice to the downtrodden. He used to be with Misha, who hosts an internet show called Ask the Blat. She is living with Ralph, who has daddy issues. They all met in college, with Ralph and Leo being star athletes on the bowling team. The chemistry of the cast and how they incestuously carry on is mesmerizing. They keep us guessing how this will end. I gave this a happy face. Jordan E. Cooper's Ain't No Mo uses satiric surrealism to deal with the rampant racism still going on today. It starts out hopeful with Obama as president. There will be no more need to complain. President will have their backs, but soon the future of being shot in the back encroaches. There isn't much time. The entire African American population have to act fast if they want to board the last flight out of America back to Africa, where they will be safer and treated better than they are now in these United States. Peaches, bedecked in pink, is a flight attendant encouraging passengers and warning them of dire consequences if they don't follow the rules. I couldn't help but think of the Day of Absences, when all the African Americans went on strike, and how it crippled the whites who were capable of doing anything on their own. This was hard-hitting as well as hilarious. The entire cast jumped in and out of characters and scenes with great agility and aplomb, all trying to come up with a drastic way to stem the tide of being emotionally and physically hurt by the circumstances going on. The way Jordan E. Cooper took these reality shows of rich bitches and stood it on its head in one scene with quite the punchline that had you gasping in the middle of rolling in the aisles, and the cast was up to all these shifting emotions thanks to Stevie Walker-Webb's expert direction. This was a truly brilliant show, how Mr. Cooper took so many different situations and was able to get humor out of horror. This is a major happy face. I love this, even more than White Noise.
In Stephen Unwin's All Our Children, it's 1941 in Germany, and Dr. Victor Franz, the director of a clinic for disabled children, has to send 30 of his charges to be euthanized. He's not very comfortable with this because it's very different from what he had done before, but his young assistant, who's a avid SS Nazi, is perfectly okay. The doctor's devout Catholic maid is also very attached to the children. Later, there are 2 very important visitors. A mother of one of the children who finds out what's going on and is horrified and angry, and a very aristocratic archbishop who is determined to do what he can to be against the regime and try to work on people's consciences so that maybe they could resist some of the horrible changes.
Which is, you know, ironic, because the Pope at the time was like completely anti-Semitic. It's like basically he did not help the Jews or the nuns or anyone being exterminated by, you know, that creature in
Yes.
Germany. I mean, this is a true story, and the director, he really, I mean, he used to help, and he wanted to do good by this, and he thinks he's being merciful, but it's just really, it's a moral, ambiguous play, and and the acting. I mean, you got Jennifer Dundas as the devout the maid, who thinks that Hitler is wonderful and doesn't realize he's terrible, and John Glover as the preacher, and Carl Kensler as the head of the thing, Sam Leisha as the SS guy, and Tasha Lawrence, whom I adore.
That was
as
the
the
most
mother.
brilliant performance.
Ever since Willow Cabin, I've been a fan of hers. This is such a profoundly interesting play, And it's funny because I watched this TV show called Speechless about this guy with cerebral palsy, and he's nonverbal, and he's a star of this wonderful TV show. And I thought, if he lived in Hitler's time,
he would have been gone.
He would have died, and he wouldn't have been able to, be a filmmaker and bring improvement to the world. It's like people, no matter what condition you're in, people should not be exterminated ever.
Right. We have a moral responsibility to the weakest among us, and this play very strongly brings this out, and it's brilliantly written and performed. It's just a really great, thoughtful, emotionally connecting play.
John Guare's Nantucket Sleigh Ride deals with the vagaries of the creative process, relationships, and abandonments. Gowery wrote one perfect play that's been done all over the country. In his misogynist hubris, he refuses to go see any production of his play that he perceives to be done amateurishly, which is why he never went to the community theater production in Nantucket. Gowery is forced to go back in time to remember a pivotal part of his life involving a famous writer's daughter, two strange children, a mysterious stranger bearing lobsters, a husband with a strange manner, and an affair Gowery had with the wife of his trusted lawyer. Helping him through this quagmire is his favorite author, Jorge Luis Borges, who inspires him. This is a quirky little play with lots of Hitchcockian mystery and MacGuffins, with the most perfect cast to pull it off. Adam Chandler Barrett and Grace Rex as his bizarre brother and sister. I mean, they were just like, I love them. And you got Douglas Sills and John Larroquette. I mean, and Tina Banko. This is a great, great cast, great play. This is so much fun. Major happy face.
At 5959 theaters, you could see Instructions for American Servicemen in Britain, which was the title of an actual 1942 pamphlet issued by the American War Office. Here, it's written and performed by Dan March, James Millard, and Matt Sheehan, also written and directed by John Walton, who's not a performer. And one of the guys is an American lieutenant, another is sort of a blowhard colonel, and then the third is a somewhat uptight but eccentric British major. And it's very much about how the two countries need to identify and understand each other. And there's a blow up about the Americans behaving badly in the village, causing a vegetable to be put on the steeple and a cat to be missing. But it's incredibly well done. The three performers are great, especially James Millard, who also performs as some of the women involved in this. And it's just that it's too long. 2.5 hours is a bit much for sketch comedy for me, but I'm sure Eva will love it even more than I did. I still gave it a happy face minus.
In Will Arbery's Plano from Club Thumb, time and people do not function in a normal manner. Three sisters continually on a porch play out the lives with pregnancies, divorce, and church going with an unexplained dread of Plano. The accomplished cast managed to maintain an air of reality in absurd situations that made it even funnier. This definitely falls in the weird but enjoyable classification. You'll scratch your head and twitch with laughter. I'm giving this a happy face minus. The story makes no sense, but it's so much fun to watch this. I really what's crazy.
Jake Goldbas gives us a little taste of Norma Jean Baker of Troy, a brand new play going on at the Shed at Hudson Yards. Renee Fleming types up Ben Wishaw's dictation of an extended metaphor comparing Marilyn Monroe and the legendary Helen of Troy, giving the play its name. Every once in a while, Marilyn Monroe turns into Truman Capote. Next week, on our next show,
May 11th.
Eva will have more to say, and there'll be a lot more on Facebook. But we want to give you a preview.
A sneak peek. At Ars Nova, the Mad Ones, and Philip James Brannon, Brad Herberly, Carmen M. Herlihy, and January Lavoie created Mrs. Murray's Menagerie, about a focus group talking about how they and their small children felt about the children's television show, Mrs. Murray's Menagerie, which is going off the air, but there might be 2 possible spin-offs which they are picking apart. With just some questions and impressions, I got a pretty good idea about this puppet-filled universe where consequences don't measure up to real life. With the terrific cast just sitting around a table giving their opinions, I was able to figure out what kind of people each of them was. Lila Neugebauer was able to get drama and tension and humor out of this benign, or was it, focus group. Happy face.
Jan Ewing saw Jilted to Perfection, book, lyrics, and music by Deborah Cook, who he says is a major talent and treasure, so if you see her name, go see her show. She appeared at the Triad, where there are often wonderful shows. He gave it a Facebook, happy face. There's more on Facebook, and
it closed.
And it closed, unfortunately.
Again, we're going to discuss this more on our next show, May 11th, but this closes May 12th, so I wanted to give you a heads up about Hallie Pfeiffer's The Pain of My Belligerence. It shows the harm of male toxicity with the odd relationship of Kat with Guy, as we see them on their first date saying outrageous things that are diffused with the caveat, joke. But is it? This is no laughing matter, as we watch events transpire and keep wondering why. I read the program notes, so I know it stems from the last election, but aside from watching performers par excellence, I was left unmoved by the proceedings. Do you feel the anger which is closing tonight just did a better job on the same subject? I just felt. So I'll let you know what I thought about it, whether I'm giving it a happy face minus mixed face on our next show, May 11th.
We want you to know that our friends at 92nd Street Y have some really great things coming up. On Monday, April 29th, conversation with Glenda Jackson,
who's currently doing
King Lear, and Lyrics and Lyricists starting Saturday, May 4th through Monday, May 6th, A Beautiful Dawning, Oklahoma at 75, which you could also see on Broadway at Circle in the Square.
And some major events going on at New York City Center that we are both going to be seeing. So look for our reviews on the High Drama Facebook page. Mark is going to go see Lady in the Dark with Victoria Clark and its MasterVoices. And they have this incredible choir and orchestra backing up this wonderful Kurt Weill show. It's really going to be tremendous. And you only have till tonight, April 27th, to catch that one. But for High Button Shoes, that's the Encores, the last of the Encores until they do it in the summer. They're doing High Button Shoes May 8th through 12th. And we never get to see High Button Shoes. That is one so it's very rare. I mean, I just saw Married an Angel, another one. They're taking really old shows that we never get to see ever and just giving it a sparkling, wonderful production with fabulous people, Michael Urie. It's going to be so terrific. So go to New York City Center, catch Lady in the Dark, and then go see High Button Shoes. Here we are with Chris Tanner with his gorgeous artwork behind him to talk about Electronic City, which is written by Falk Richter, directed by Ildiko Nemeth, and it's at the New Stage Theater Company. So tell us about, what is Electronic City anyway? Tell us all about it.
Okay, hi Eva. Well, Electronic City was, the first production was done a few years ago at Theater for the New City. This is the second one. It's sort of, in our crazy world of technology, how we're all sort of addicted and can't stand the idea of being disconnected from all of our crazy media things. And this is sort of like you wake up one day and you know you've got an appointment. You can't remember if it's in Rome or Seattle. You can't find your charger. You don't remember what PIN number. And is this a waiting room, a hospital, or is this actually the airport? And it's all that sort of thing. It's about complete anxiety with all of this, and everything, and when everything sort of goes haywire. But it's also a love story about a man and a woman trying to find each other in all this. But I think it's sort of a modern day Joseph K. story, Kafka, but The Trial by Kafka. And the main character is Joseph K. He's arrested one day, and he doesn't know why or what for. It's that anxiety of not being out of control of your life, not being able to understand where you're going, what you need, how to get there. But this theater piece is directed beautifully by Ildiko Nemeth, and the actors are gorgeous, and we've been having a blast. It's quite beautiful with the sets and images drawn by Chris Sharp.
And now some interviews from the Benny and June press conference, and the full press conference you can find on the Facebook page and on YouTube, Eva Heinemann.
Oh, here we are with
Bryce Pinkham. A person can feel like they don't belong with anybody else, and then they find someone whose damage or scars fits up perfectly with theirs, and I think that's what Sam and June do for each other. Sam doesn't talk a lot, and June talks a lot, and June can get really worked up, and Sam's usually always pretty calm and slow and even keeled, so they balance each other really nicely.
You're two halves of a whole, and really are the yin and the yang.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. They really complement each other. And I think that Sam also challenges June, and as she says, treats her like a person. And that's something that she's not used to, because Sam is used to being not treated like a person. I mean, this is sort of the way he dresses, all the time. And people think he's a bit strange and a bit weird. And he knows that all he wants is to be treated like a person, to be treated normal. And so that's what he gives to June. And I think he's one of the first people to give that to her in this small town. And so she suddenly feels like, oh, maybe I can just be a person. And that's an incredible gift to give to someone who has been told their entire life they're different. Part of the beautiful story of the show is watching the two siblings have to reckon what the same tragic events did to them, and how what happened to them was different. And they both can't go in the same direction. They actually have to find their own journeys to healing in different ways, and that can be hard when you feel like your sibling is the only person you have left. And so Sam really, drops in and shakes things up for them and forces them to confront the fact that they need more than just each other in order to heal. And seeing people care for each other, Benny is really June's caretaker as well. And that's a tricky balance to strike between somebody who's a caretaker but also an equal. They're brother and sister, but he's also entrusted with her safety and her well-being, and that brings up a lot of conflict for them. So it's very moving to see them work through their own fears for each other to try and help the other one grow. And I think in the end, it's surprising what comes out and what is actually holding them back is maybe not what you would expect in the beginning.
Hannah Ellis.
And you are?
I'm June in the new musical Benny and June.
So
it's been such a joy to discover this character and to talk to a lot of people who are functioning schizophrenics in the world, who deal with mental illness, who deal with schizophrenia, but lead happy, fulfilled, joyful lives and contribute in huge ways to our world. So it's delightful to tell a story where you see a lot of hope. And it's not a show about schizophrenia. It's a show about a brother and a sister, and she just happens to have schizophrenia. So we don't see that a lot in theater, I think. And so it's really nice to tell a story about, not when we see schizophrenia in media, we're seeing serial killers or brilliant, physicists and mathematicians who deal with mental illness. But in this show, you see a girl who is wanting what you want, which is to lead a happy life where she feels fulfilled and she has a place in this world and someone to love and to be loved back. So a lot of hope. And I hope, personally, that this show opens up the conversation of mental illness and breaks that stigma, because I think schizophrenia is, we're more comfortable talking about anxiety or depression, even bipolar, but schizophrenia is still a scary word. And so it's my hope that through this show and people talking about it and feeling more open, that we can all feel more empathetic towards ourselves and towards the world. Oh, Bryce Pinkham, he's just the best. We work well together, and I just think he's brilliant. I love working with him. He inspires me. We just have a good working relationship, and he cracks me up all the time. I think we laugh a lot. We laugh a lot in the rehearsal process. I love Clay Elder. We're similar in that we both come from big families. We both come from the West. We have a lot in common, so he's my brother from another mother.
Are with
Larry Hirshhorn.
who went to Ithaca College with me.
Go Bombers! Just a bit napped. We've been working on the show off and on for several years. It fell in my lap. It had 4 songs written by our composer Nolan Gasser, and he sent it to me out of the blue. We had a mutual friend, and he had only written 4 spec songs, and I said, oh my gosh, I love this movie. I want to do this. And I signed on early on, and then we found a book writer, Kirsten Gunther. He had already found our lyricist, Mindy Dickstein, who's amazing. And then we found this incredible talented new writer, Kirsten Gunther, who's going to be huge, is my prediction. And then, so we started writing, and then it was time to find a director. And I've known Jack Cummings III for years, and I admire his work so much. And he and his transport group do some of the most innovative, exciting things in New York City that I've ever seen. So I'm like, that is the perfect choice for Benny and June. Because Benny and June is different. It's quirky. It's a little different. It's not your typical traditional musical. It's more of a play with songs, but it's a real story, and it's extraordinarily moving. But it does have its quirky parts, so Jack is the perfect fit for that. It's a real feel-good musical, and it's a wonderful journey. It's a terrific story with a very happy ending. But, obviously there's bumps along the way to get there. But it is, I think, really worth taking the trip, because you will laugh, you will cry, you will be really moved, and then you're going to want to go home and call your brother or sister to say, hey, how you doing?
Hi, I'm Claiborne Elder.
And you played Benny and
That's right. Well, it's a story about a brother and a sister who've experienced a huge loss in their lives, the death of their parents. And they have been living and making their lives work the best they can, but they are stuck. They've reached a place where they're stuck and things aren't working anymore. And these 2 people come into their lives and kind of shake everything up and change the way they view their kind of reality. And I think that it's a story that a lot of people can relate to because of that. We've all reached a point where we feel stuck, and change is very difficult. And it's so it's a story about that. Sometimes change is scary. It's easier to keep going in the same way, even if it's the wrong way, than to make a huge change in your life sometimes. Absolutely. I have a disabled brother who lives in a group home, and I know that us as a family, we use a lot of humor. We use a lot to deal with all the problems that arise, and but it's a very difficult thing. I also worked in a group home when I was in college, so I feel like I have a lot of I resonate a lot about this show.
Is it hard to let a character like this go so you go on to your next project?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a few times in my life when I have originated roles in things, you do have a much deeper love, because it takes a lot of understanding and a lot of work to figure that person out. And once you do, you hold on to them. And it's hard. It is hard to let go. And it's one reason we care so much about what we do is you love that person that you play for a long time, even after you stop playing them.
Jan Ewing's review of Tilda Swindon answers an ad on Craigslist by Byron Lane. It's developing quite the track record. This absurdist tale of Walt, a timid gay newbie played by a charming Byron Lane, whose life is usurped by over-the-top enabler Tilda Swinton, played by a very grand Tom Link, is hysterical from the first word. Tom DeDritness and his cast have put together memorable, surprisingly coherent farce, lampooning more millennial conventions than I can count. Kudos, guys. Someone had to do it. See, if for no other reason that in 40 years you'll be able to say, back in the day I saw Tom Link live on stage. Jan Ewing once saw B. Lilly live on stage, and he's never gotten over this, and he's giving us a major happy face. You can catch the full press conference on YouTube, Eva Heinemann. The Lortel Awards will be at the Skirball Center May 5th, New York City Center, Lady in the Dark. Mark's going to 26th. And I caught up with Michael Urie. He's doing high button shoes for Encores, May 8th through 12th.
Here we are with
Michael Urie, hello.
and you are in high button shoes. This really old-fashioned musical that we have all been dying to see because
Silver's character, Harrison Floy, a con man who shows up in Brunswick, New Jersey, and cons this very sweet family. It's got some great tunes, Julie Stein music. We're doing a lot of the original Jerome Robbins choreography. It's a great show, very funny, so tuneful. John Rando is an incredible director.
That was at the Outer Critics Circle nominations, where him and Julie Halston gave the nominations, where The Prom and the Ferryman were nominated. And if I have time, I'll put the nomination on the YouTube Eva Heinemann page. And Richard Skipper celebrates May 5th, 1 o'clock at the Laurie Beechman West Bank Theater. Those are always an occasion. Great stuff going on at the Y. Lyrics and Lyricists, Glenda Jackson. Running out of time, so I have to do this very fast. And these shows are closed, and the reviews you can find on the Facebook page. Pick up your performing arts inside of the cultural heartbeat of New York City. Our next show is May 11th. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.